Hello, welcome to Lunch Break Live. We are here with vegan chef Dreena Burton. What are you making today?
Hi, Paige. Thank you. I am making a chickpea salad for sandwiches. And this particular recipe is fun because it is made without anything like store-bought mayo. And it's also nut-free and oil-free and gluten-free. So it really accommodates a lot of diets. Also can be soy-free. So it's super for, any dietary specific need, and it's really easy and really delicious. And I'm sharing this one because it's one that my readers really love, and they make it a lot and they tell me that they love it, so I thought I'd share it with all of you.
Phenomenal. Do you want to show us the book real quick? You have your beautiful book there. Yes. Your brand new book that's out now, or is it a pre-order?
Yeah, my new book, the recipe we're doing today is from Plant-Powered Families, and that book has been out about 6 years now, I guess. Yeah, like 6 years in May. And this is the recipe, Chickpea Salad Sandwiches.
Yes.
My new book, yes, thank you, comes out in August, and that's called Dreena's Klein Kitchen.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's get cooking.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. And it's so simple. We're starting with some base ingredients to make what will become the sauce, right? So when you think of using mayo, we're trying to replace what goes into something like that. The flavor components, the acid, a little bit of sweetness, saltiness, a little bit of fattiness. So that's what kind of goes into a mayo. When you taste it, you've got all of those flavor elements, some fat, some salt, a little bit of sweetness, some acidity. So we do that with starting with some tahini. So I have doubled this recipe today simply because in my family, I have to double or triple everything because my kids are older and one batch doesn't go very far. But this recipe will serve 2, maybe 3 people. It depends on how much filling you want to use in your sandwiches or how you want to serve it, right? Because it can be served in different ways. So I'm using tahini, and if you can find a very mild or buttery tasting tahini, I know that sounds strange, but there's quite a difference in flavors amongst tahinis. Some are roasted and taste very peanutty. Say some are a little bit bitter. Like the first time I tasted tahini, I thought it was awful because it had a bitter profile, and it does have a bit of a bitter profile. But you can get some authentic brands that are really buttery. I'm using one today that's in a squeeze bottle, and that's really handy. I do have a post on my site about tahini, so you could pop over there, and it's called Taste Test with Tahini, and just get to learn a little bit more about them. And then we're adding some freshly squeezed lemon juice. And a tip on using lemons, especially for organic, before you juice them, use a rasp and collect the rind, the zest, and pop it in your freezer. And then you'll have it for other recipes because a little bit of lemon zest adds so much flavor to baking, to finishing dishes. It's just a beautiful thing. So it's a great little thing to have on hand in your freezer. And then we're adding some non-dairy milk. Now, this can be anything you like, but not vanilla and not sweetened. So just something that's a standard. It can be soy milk if you're okay with soy. It can be oat milk. That's what I'm using today. And the other element we're using is a little bit of maple syrup. And that may seem like a strange component here, but again, we're trying to bring in that little bit of sweetness that comes into mayonnaise. We also have some red wine vinegar, or you could use apple cider vinegar. Yes, that was my maple syrup. Yes, and this is my vinegar. I just had to double check that there for a moment. You could also use apple cider vinegar, white vinegar. I like red wine vinegar, but it's a flexible thing. And some Dijon. If you really dislike Dijon, omit it. I know a lot of people always ask me, do I have to add the vinegar? Absolutely not. You do not have to add the vinegar. So you want to whisk this until it's pretty smooth. Tahini is thick, and you really have to work it to get a thin consistency. And this is nice and liquefied now. I'm just gonna and tamari. I forgot that I added tamari. Sorry. Small amount of tamari. So if you wanted to make this oil-free, or sorry, soy-free, then instead of using tamari, use coconut aminos, and that will replace the tamari, the soy in the recipe. And now we have good old chickpeas, which, you know, most of us know and love chickpeas. You can use canned. That's what I've used today. You can cook from dried. You need a cup in this recipe. So I opened up a couple of cans, measured out 2 cups to double the recipe. And this is what we're doing with the chickpeas. So you can see that I've got chickpeas and some of them are really broken up underneath, because before we went on, I started to mash some. And we're mashing them. I use the bottom of a cup. You can use a fork, but a bottom of a cup or a mug or a measuring cup works so well. It's handy. And just start to mash them. And the reason we're doing this, I'm actually going to take some of this and get it into the sauce component now, some of what I've mashed. But the reason we're doing this is when you break up the chickpeas, then they're going to hold together a little bit easier, right? So if you have only whole chickpeas in this sandwich mixture, in this mix, the chickpeas tend to, like so, go off. They wander off. They'll fall out of your mixture. They'll fall out of the sandwich. If you can break them down a little bit, like so, then they start to hold with the sauce.
And Dreena, hey Dreena, are you using the back of a jar? Is that what I see?
Yeah, I'm using a jar, and we reuse like salsa jars all the time. So this is a salsa jar, and I'm just pushing it into the bowl to mash it.
I love it. Now, do you do anything with your aquafaba? Do you have a recipe or something that you like for that?
You know what? I don't use it a lot. I know it's one of these super trendy things. I don't use it a lot, but what I do use it for, and I'll keep it in the fridge for maybe, sometimes I'll just break it up in my hand too. I'll keep it in the fridge for about, up to 4 days. After that, it starts to go quite funky, but you can freeze it as well. So I use it as, I have a recipe in the new book for oil-free croutons. And I use that, the aquafaba, in a base mixture to coat, wash my hands here, to coat the bread cubes for croutons. And it works so well. So that's one of my favorite things, but you don't need much for it. So that's, you could freeze it, but I don't tend to use it for desserts and such so much. It's good though. I do find it quite amazing.
I love it. I have to tell you, Stacy, one of our viewers, says, so cool. Ain't no need for special equipment. Just use what we have in our house. That's right. You can grab a jar, a glass if you like, something that's a good, Tom uses a potato masher. Maybe you have one of those. There you go.
Exactly. I mean, we can have the thing, like I have a small mini food processor and I could pulse it in that, but then I have to wash that too, right? So it's much easier to just throw these things in there. So then what we're adding, oh, sorry, Paige.
I was just going to say that you're a busy mom with 3 girls. So yes, and all the businesses that you're running and things that you're doing. So yeah, make it quick, right?
I already have my dishwasher at least 3-4 times a day. So it's enough. It's shocking how much I use my dishwasher. So now we're adding some veg, some crunch. So you could eat this like this straight up, but having a little bit of crunch, a little bit of color really adds to it, I think. So I'm adding, and this is completely optional. I give ideas in the recipe, how you can modify, change it up. I have some diced red pepper, some very finely chopped celery. If you really don't like celery, then use, cucumber, or add more bell pepper, or you could chop some carrot really finely. It's really your choice. And this I added today because I'm doing that fun sprouting thing with green onions that people are seeing all over the internet, where you regrow your green onions after you cut off the tops. And so I've had this in my jar, in my kitchen in a jar for about a week, changing the water every day. And I got all these new sprouts. So I thought I'm going to add a little bit of green onions
Nice.
To there because they're there, right? And they add a tiny bit of extra flavor. And the other element that I'm adding, two kind of special ingredients. One is, this is one that you don't have to use, kelp granules. So kelp will add that little bit of like sea flavor into the recipe that, you know, if you taste this recipe, you might think it tastes a little bit like what you recall or remember a tuna sandwich to be. I am not a lover of seaweed. Like all my kids love sushi and I can't stomach it, but I can manage like a little bit of this flavoring in the salad mix. It's quite nice. So I found today something called sea lettuce, and that's what I'm breaking up in there today. It's much more delicate than some of the other seaweeds. So I'm breaking that up into the mixture, and it's so little, like a quarter, half teaspoon. You can also use kelp granules if you can find those. And then the other special element that I love to add is chopped apple. So again, optional, but in this recipe, the contrast of flavor from the savory elements and then this little bite of fresh apple is so good. It's really so tasty. So you can add as much or as little as you want. And I did sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice on the apple to keep it from turning off, like from oxidizing. However, there are a couple of brands of apples that don't brown as easily. So Gala, this one is Ambrosia. They do pretty well and they don't brown so quickly. So just a little tip, if Cameo is another one, if you want to use apple in recipes, those are nice options. And the finer you chop these things, the more they'll hold together in the recipe. And I do find this tastes great after a day or two in the fridge, like it will keep pretty well. And that's it. That is our chickpea salad sandwich mix.
Ooh.
And I'm going to put some on bread now, but I also want to give you ideas of how to use it outside of bread. Like maybe you don't want to use bread, or you know, you're gluten-free and the gluten-free bread options aren't great. So sometimes I use a little extra tahini on the bread to help.
Quick question about your sea lettuce, if you don't mind.
Yes.
We had some questions that they could see the sea lettuce. Can you show us that?
Yes, I just found this one. This is a total new brand to me, so I'm not like, you know, promoting it. I just found it. And this is it here. Can you see that well? Organic sea lettuce.
Yeah, so it comes into a container like this, everybody. See? Amazing.
Yeah.
Look, everybody. Ooh. And you'd say it's not as, the flavor palette is a little smoother, let's say.
Yes, it's more delicate. To me, it almost is similar to the smell of kale chips, somewhat. Like it's a little softer, whereas when I buy sushi or, you know, nori for the girls, I find it very, very off-putting. But this has a softer flavor profile for sure. And that will go a long way. But if you love seaweed, then you would, you know, you might want to add this to salads or soups, or add it to pastas or like noodles, ramen noodles. That would be so good in something like that. So lots of ideas if you bought that. And that was about, it's not cheap, but there's a lot in there. It was, I think it was $12, $13.
Thank you. Wow. Really good. Yeah, we'll definitely last a little while. Love that. Dreena, how many books have you written so far?
Oh, okay. Well, I've written with this new one coming out in August. This will be my 6th solo cookbook. And I also did the recipes, co-authored 2 books with Dr. Neil Barnard, The Cheese Trap and his Diabetes Reversal cookbook. So that will make it 8, but 6 solo. And I'm just going to layer this on the bread. So I added a touch more tahini on the bread, but what would be awesome here, instead of tahini, if you wanted to try something else, mashed avocado would be so yummy. Just a thin layer, a spread of a light miso, like a shiro miso, just a little bit. It has saltiness, and it will like give that base layer to help hold the chickpea salad. And of course, you can always season this more with black pepper, with a touch of salt. We have some tahini in here, or I mean tamari, but you can season it up a little more as you like. And then, leaf of lettuce in here if you like. And there's an idea of your sandwich.
Ooh, that looks so good.
But you know what? I like eating this straight up because this is so good straight up on a big lettuce bowl or Buddha bowl, especially in the summer when it's getting hot and you may want some lighter fare. Pop it on a bed of lettuce, drizzle on a nice like punchy vinaigrette, and have it with lots of greens and maybe some quinoa or rice. It's also really good in a tortilla wrap. And you could even put it in a collard or a lettuce wrap. So lots of ideas there. I mean, it's so yummy. You could just eat it with a spoon straight up and not fuss with anything else.
Definitely. Now, the back to the sea lettuce, does that have omega-3s in it?
That's a very good question. I'll have a quick look here at what they are saying.
While you're peeking at that, Dreena, I ran to my bookshelf. That's where I was a second ago, and I found this. Everybody.
Yeah. You have it.
And this is an incredible book. I had no idea. So that is so exciting. I love this book.
Yeah, there's some, pretty rich and fun recipes in there. It was a good book to play with recipes because I could kind of have a free for all with using like nuts and more richer elements because we were replacing cheese and dairy based recipes. So that was very fun. You know what? I'm not seeing it on here. I know that seaweeds tend to have those essential fatty acids, the omega-3s, but I'm not seeing it on the label, so I'm not sure.
Okay, very good. Okay, so many good ideas with this chickpea salad, everybody. So you mentioned the Buddha bowl, you mentioned lettuce leaf, you mentioned the bread, a wrap. Incredible. What a great basis. So how do your children love to eat that?
I'd say in a sandwich best or in a wrap. For sure. I mean, I always do Buddha bowls of some sort for lunch most of the time. Like I occasionally will have a sandwich, but I tend to use like leftovers out of the fridge and then build Buddha bowls with what I have in there, right? Even like leftovers, small amounts of whatever we had from dinner a couple of nights before. So for me, this would be so great in a Buddha bowl. And some other elements that you might want to add to it. Again, some of these are listed in the recipe, but if you love pickles, you could dice pickles in there, capers. Some people love capers. And I've had some readers as well tell me that they prefer raisins in there, a little bit of raisins instead of apples. So there are people out there like me who really love that sweet and savory balance or combination. And you can really, it's one of those recipes that once you have the base elements, you have the sauce made, you've got the chickpeas, then you can customize with the veggies you like in there and any additional seasonings. Another thing that would be great would be a little bit of smoked paprika. I love smoked paprika. I've become like obsessed with it. So you can really have fun with some of those seasonings.
Amazing. Well, I wanted to just thank you so much for joining us today, everybody, here on Jane Unchained Lunch Break Live. Do you mind showing us the sandwich again?
Absolutely. There's the salad.
There it is.
Yep.
Yep.
And the sandwich. Hold it up.
Yes, and you will find this printable recipe plus hundreds of others on janeunchained.com. You can also head over to DreenaBurton.com. She has so many offerings there. Dreena's Kind Kitchen, yes. And please check out her brand new book. You can order it now. And so many people are, please come back. Do you help one more question. Do you help your daughters cook? Do you bring them in the kitchen with you or do they wander in?
Oh, they're in all the time. I can't get them out of the kitchen. Well, see, what's happened is two of our daughters are older now. One's 20 and 16. And then my youngest is 12, right? They've grown up quite a bit since they were on Plant Powered Families. that's our girls there, but they're quite a bit, they've grown. That's 6 years ago. So the older two will come in and make whatever they want. And my oldest works at a vegan cafe, so she always has lots of ideas and wants to kind of make her own food. The youngest, I will make food for her, but she often wants to come in and do something like roasted chickpeas or cookies, that kind of thing. But our schedules are all over the place with all the changes going on right now. And so there's always someone in my kitchen because they're coming and going at different times. But yeah, the older girls are pretty independent and cook. And I'm always pretty impressed with like what they will make. Our middle girl will saute up spinach and serve it with fresh tomatoes and tofu and make wraps and sandwiches and things like that. So they've kind of done their own thing.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. You've seen it here live on Lunch Break Live. Easy peasy chickpea salad, y'all. Revealed here with Dreena Burton. Thank you. One more flash of that sandwich. I think you'll leave us with everybody wanting more. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Jane Unchained, janeunchained.com. You'll find the recipe there. And we appreciate you so much for joining us today. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paige. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.